Hey, welcome to Life Camera Action. It's Adventures in Filmmaking. I'm Ron McPherson, and thanks for joining me. I'm here with my special guest today, Mr. Christian Beckman.
Hi, Ron.
What's happening,
Hey,
man?
Thanks for having me aboard.
Hey,
This is great.
who's your friend there?
Okay, my friend here is, I think we settled on Winston on set. I think this is the name of our wolf.
Winston Wolf.
Winston Wolf, Mr. Wolf.
All right.
Mr. Wolf, whatever you want to call him.
I love it. Well, listen, for those of you that don't know, Christian Beckman has a special effects shop. It's called Quantum Creation Effects. It's right here in Burbank, California, right down the street. And he makes all kinds of cool props, like these sci-fi guns, like that werewolf sitting right there. And we're going to look at some of the images that we've done together, some of the projects we've shot together. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to show you some of these wonderful hero props, how they can add production value to your story. Hero props, key props, they're incredible, guys, and they just make your project unique and special, and they give your actors something to do, which is pretty cool. So we're going to talk about all the benefits of that. We're going to meet Winston Wolf, and here we go. It's Life Camera Action, Adventures in Filmmaking. Let's go. Right now, I want to get to the DeNiro story, okay? I'm a huge Robert De Niro fan.
Okay.
We were just hanging out, and Christian said, hey, did I ever tell you my De Niro story? And I was like, no. So I, of course, was like, we have to tell you about this story. So, Christian, you're working on this movie. It's called Grudge Match.
Yes.
Tell us what happened.
Okay, well, look, at Quantum, yes, we do props and we do creatures, we do makeup effects, but a main bread and butter for our studio is costumes, especially costumes, like anything challenging, not just like, we can do fabric, garments and things like that, but it's more about the specialty costumes.
Yeah.
And, one of the costume designers that I work with, just amazing designer, Mary Boyd, she was working on Grudge Match, and she said, Christian, I got a challenge for you. Okay. And I said, all right, what is that, Mary? And she said, I'm working on Grudge Match. And then I find out it's De Niro and it's Stallone. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Yeah. I'm on board, whatever you need. In one scene, it was scripted that De Niro is, he's training for his fight. And he hasn't trained in a long time, and he's heavy, and he's, it's even a joke in the script where he's jump roping and the guys are making fun of him because he's got little man boobs or flopping around. And so, De Niro's already in good shape. I mean, back then he was in great shape already. So to gain weight and do all that, not going to happen. We had to build a proper fat suit for him. Okay. So not only a fat suit that looked real and had some weight to it and anatomy, etc., but we had to have something that the chest would flop and you would see that, under a t-shirt. So
Okay.
You've got to, it's a little challenging. It doesn't sound challenging, but it is. And typically we would either scan him and make a mannequin, or we would life cast his body, okay, or his upper body, his torso, whatever. So with that said, cut to there was one day where I'm going to have some access to him. He's in town one day. I think he was going to a premiere or something that he had worked on, and they had scheduled him for everything that day. Meetings and wardrobe fittings, all this kind of stuff. So they asked me to come down and meet with them. I actually brought in a previous fat suit that I made for Leonardo DiCaprio for the J. Edgar, project. It was one that had extra. No one's wore it or anything like that. It was just one that I still had. So I'm like, maybe I can try to throw this on him, just kind of.
Because they weren't giving you time to do like an impression or.
Yeah, we didn't have that kind of time. It just, he wasn't in LA. The schedule was what it was, So, and we sometimes have to just roll with that and just use our best educated guesses and just the knowledge that we have and the experience that we have to try to build it more generically or whatever. So I get there at the fitting. I meet with them. I bring this suit in, ask him to try it on so I can just see how that fits and see if I can get some information from that. And he's like, okay, all right. And he's a really nice guy, really nice to meet with him. And so as we're fitting it and we're talking, I'm trying to get measurements. He's like, don't you need my body form for this? Like my body cast of it? He had the language down and everything. And I said, yeah, ideally that would be great. But I was told with your schedule, we're probably not going to get that, we're not going to get that opportunity, So he was like, oh, no, we can do it. We can do it. Where are you at? Where are you? He jumped on this, And I'm like, well, actually, I'm like 5 minutes down the road because our fitting was at Western Costumes. So I'm right down the street, So I said, I'm like 5 minutes down the road. I can get ready. I can be ready in a half an hour. He said, okay, you know what? We're going to make this happen. Because he's into it. He's like, I hear that, he keeps a lot of his props, his wardrobe and things from movies. He was into this. He wanted to get a body cast. I was like, or torso cast. I don't say a full body. But I said, okay, you got it. And so he made that happen. So all the stuff that they had going on, 30 minutes later, he's like in my studio, as Robert DeNiro's coming in. And the guys were like, what?
Were you driving
Do we have
back?
alternate? Do we have this? I mean, I'm like, I don't even know if we're prepped for this,
De Niro is going to be here in 30 minutes.
Yes, that was exactly what it was. Like right away, before I'm even driving over there, I'm like, guys, do we have this? Because I didn't even know if we were prepped for it, We got him in, and it was a lot of fun. I got to tell you, he was so into this. It was surreal and unique because what he had me do was take one of his 3 phones and video him while he's getting this process done. And he would he's directing me, like Robert De Niro's directing me in this video. And I was like, it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. He would say some things like about the process and we're at quantum effects or whatever.
He just documented it just like we do.
Exactly.
That's what's cool about it. And that's why I really wanted to share the story because, it's Robert De Niro. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But he's doing the same thing or similar thing the same way we do it. He's out there documenting it with his phone and walking people through the process just like we do.
Yep, exactly. It's all for him. And, he at one point he said, hey, why don't you take a minute and go around your lobby? Because my lobby is just full of displays. And
it's a museum.
Cool things to look at, and he liked it. He was impressed with it. So he said, why don't you film some of that, So, okay, no problem. And I came back and then we shut down and then he's like, okay. And then, he wants to start up again. It was just an interesting, unique experience. So I had a lot of fun. And I don't really get too giddy about actors and everything. We're all just in this industry working together. But there are definitely some of those guys and gals out there that when and if I meet them, I'm like, oh, cool. This is cool.
It's just
special for me.
Added bonus when it's somebody that that inspired you or that you have enjoyed watching, there's a lot of actors that sort of inspired me to get into movies, and then you end up working with those people and you don't want to be that guy that's like, hey, you're the reason, but by the same token, you kind of feel obligated to let them know, like, thank you, you played a big part in this.
Yeah, exactly. To the point where, I'm like, I never asked for photos or anything like that, but, and, the costume designer I'm working with, she knew I was a fan. She's like, hey, why don't you guys get a photo together? It's like, yeah, no problem, So,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea for reference. I know my height, his height. No, it was just... It was fun. It was a fun story.
That's amazing.
I had a good time with that. And it was like, it wasn't something that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like a quick conversation and then it's happening. He made it happen. So, it made me feel great because he understands what we need to get him what he needs. And it made me feel good too that he understands these processes, he respects these processes, and he enjoys it. So it was fun.
That's incredible. What an incredible story. And it just goes to show that, in making movies, in the process of making movies, a lot of times we feel like we're being told, no, you can't do this. No, we're not going to have time. No. And then you get to a point or a person where like, yeah, well, actually we can do that. Yeah. And now it is happening, Yeah. So it is a little bit of a roller coaster, but usually it works out the way it's intended to for the best possible result. And, sometimes we can plan and schedule, but, making movies is, there's a certain uncertainty that comes with the creative process that, you can plan and schedule and you can still not know, There's
so many variables. There's so much to it. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. It's not the first time this has happened. I mean, I had this happen on a commercial with Dr. Dre, I was told I can't get a life cast, but then as soon as I meet him he's like, don't you need a life cast for this? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But, I'm here, I'm just getting reference photos and stuff like that. He's all, where you at? He said the same thing. It didn't happen because the commercial's a little bit crazier schedules. But I went down to his studio and met with him. We got some good references and we made this mask for him for a Dr. Dre Beats, commercial. But it happens,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, everyone's scrambling. Everyone's trying to accommodate different schedules. Mm-hmm. If they don't think they can do it, they're just like, in our world, it's like you just just build it. You know,
Yeah.
for some people, it's like you just build it. Just make
Right.
it happen. That's what we hired you for. And
Right.
it's like, okay. But I've learned that in my career now, I mean, just 20 years coming up in July with quantum creation effects, you know, you do have to kind of push your way in there, you know, because if you need something, you got to let them know this is what I need so that you can get them what they need.
Yeah.
And, you know, you may not always get it, but at least you try and at least give them an understanding of what you're trying to do and how you're trying to accomplish it. So,
Yeah. That's incredible.
yeah.
That's incredible. Well, let me fast forward ahead. We met on a show called Screenboat. You know, when all of the rights became public domain, Stephen Lamorte, the writer-director, he wrote this movie called Screenboat about this mouse that terrorizes a bunch of people on Staten Island Ferry.
Yeah, which we filmed on a ferry.
So you were in New York for several weeks filming with the puppet and filming with the actors, but then the LA crew came later and spent a week in LA doing all the special effects shots with the creature, and that's where I came in and we worked together on that.
Yes.
And we shot a lot of forced perspective. It's pretty cool. It's where you take an image and you place it in the foreground to make it look smaller than the image that's in the background, and through lenses and distances and a certain method, a certain science, you can actually achieve in camera where people look different heights or sizes. So forced perspective is really cool. You can do it with creatures. My friend Jack Perez, he's done it on several movies that we've worked on where we've used forced perspective shots, and they're a lot of fun. So we did that together. So you had the 3-foot tall puppet and then the 6-foot tall costume for David Howard Thornton.
Yes, that's correct. So, you know, when I met with Stephen early on, you know, he kind of had this mapped out on how he wanted to approach this, because it is kind of a challenge. You know, it's if you've ever seen this done, you know, in older films, practical versions, like, you know, even E.T. You know, E.T. is a puppet and it's mechanical, or it's, you know, hand puppet versions or whatever. It's you might catch a shot where it's a little guy in a suit, you know what I mean? So, you know, but then you start seeing the proportions are a little off, you know. So it is, you know, sometimes difficult to kind of to make this happen and make it come together. And I think Stephen had a great idea of how to let's try to make it all practical in camera, but let's utilize the actual creature and its size wherever we can. And we did. We filmed on that ferry for like 4 weeks. And so almost every other day I'm filming, you know, with a puppet, and it could be a hand puppet or it could be a rod puppet version of it. And we're trying to get every shot we can, pretty much every scene that way. Then we come, you know, back and we built a suit for David and a makeup. And so we try to get the proportions as similar as we can. Now they're not going to be 6'1" or whatever. You know, we're trying to cheat those, you know, with visuals, like you're filming on the, you know, the LED screens or some oversized props.
Gosh,
we had
a
the
whole other thing.
Yeah, we filmed the whole thing out on the boat, but then you've got all those scenes now, plates of those scenes, and they're on their screen now, so they're oversized on the screen, so David can be in the suit and the makeup and, you know, fit right in there, and some oversized props as well. You know, it's a really fun cheat. For me, it was, I just thought it was a cool idea, you know, when I met with Stephen, and that was one thing. But I also just like the idea of things being done old school, you know, practical, and any kind, you know, anything we can just do it all on camera. That's
well, and that's actually the perfect segue to my next conversation with you, which is, you know, when I had met you, I was like, oh, dude, hi, we're friends already, in case you didn't know, because I used to do special effects, and those are my roots. That's what I love.
Right.
You know.
That's right.
And so immediately I was just like, we're going to be friends.
Yeah, no, I remember that day. And so you were telling me about some of the props and different, you know, things that you were making, and you're speaking my language. So I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, great. This guy, you know, knows what we do. He's obviously been doing this stuff as well. Which makes it easier because now we can communicate and work together on things, and
and that's what
you've got
happened.
good ideas, and you can, you know, tell me, oh, cool, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it that way. I mean, I'm always open to listening to ideas.
Yeah.
So it's all. It's all
Well,
collaborative.
people often ask me like, well, how do you network with people? How do you really collaborate? Because everyone that I'm talking to, they're too expensive, or they all want this, or they don't show up, or there's these sort of built-in challenges that come with that. And people will tell you generically, well, you got to find the right people, and it's like, yeah, but how? How do you do that? We talk a lot about that in the film mentorship program over at Creative HQ. David Goodman from Goodman Grip and Light. There's another guy that we network with. Our partnerships, our collaborations, they're real collaborations. They're not competitions. That's the big difference that I see out there in the independent film world in Hollywood, is that the collaboration becomes a competition.
Yeah.
And you're not creating together, you're competing together. And so I saw that as a real struggle. I wanted to do these projects and teach people how to properly collaborate, how to properly network, how to really get work, Every time I turn around, there's somebody going like, oh, there's no work out there. Oh, Hollywood's dying. And what do I do? And let's take Steve Martin, the comedian's advice. Maybe be so good that they can't ignore you.
Yeah.
And Christian is a perfect example of that. So thank you for all of that, Christian.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you being a part of it. Michael Greth, who's operating this whole show, and Kevin Morris back there, perfect examples of this. We all show up every day to do this because we love it. We want to share it with you. We're glad you're here. The real truth is that I make sure that everybody benefits, everybody feels included, and everybody is important. They really are. And to be able to teach that and live it as a lifestyle, it really is just a beautiful thing. It's the joy in what we do as filmmakers. I feel like maybe we've lost a little bit of that. Maybe we've just need to get sort of realigned and reconnected. And so that's what I'm here to do. And so far with people like Christian and Michael and Kevin and David and all the people that have just been magnetized to these projects, that's what we've been doing. And it's been a lot of fun. We went on to do another project on that big LED wall called FUTURA. And FUTURA was science fiction. We ended up making 4 of these Futuras. And by the time we had started collaborating, we were on to the 4th episode.
Right.
And so we did this whole battle sequence. And again, it was one of those things where I was like, Christian, you want to come be in this movie? You got any costumes? And tell us about that. What happened? Once again, we rummaged through the shop and we said, what about this?
Yeah, no, you know what? That was a fun experience, And I said, look, we'd already worked together on Screenboat. It was a very, short time that we worked together. But I got an idea of how you work, and David, and also your mentorship and some of the fundamentals and things that you teach. And I was like, I liked it. I liked it for many reasons, because I was like, I think what you're doing is great, and I think that you do try to teach the fundamentals, and not just that, but like just the personal aspects that go with it, and personality and respect and things like that, things you should have on, anyway. But sometimes you need to reinforce that, because, like you said, it gets competitive in our industry. And I think I know nice guys finish last is something I always heard, but I don't agree with that. I think the guys that are really, like you said, really good, so they can't, you can't ignore them. But the guys that are really nice and really try to be there and really have a good attitude, those are the people want to work with. But anyway, I was like, yeah, I'd love to try doing something like this, the FUTURA thing, because I thought, you show me a little script and, you have these ideas, and I'm like, dude, this is going to be fun. Yeah, sure. I've got stuff in the shop, and I can play a little part in it. That's great, because that's fun for me. That's something I'm not.
I think it was a half day or something like that.
Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah, and I was on a show, and I was pretty busy, and I was like, I'll make this happen. And so, I threw together a costume made of elements from different shows we worked on, like Hail Caesar, G.I. Joe, Mandalorian. I mean, it just had all these parts.
We just comboed all these.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I can't use this because it's for Mandalorian, but if I use it with these 4 or 5 other pieces, then okay, maybe we're all right.
It's changed up. It's fine, and it was fun. The character, and I'm like, okay, great. I'm trying to think about, who this guy is and what he's trying to accomplish here. And he's a good guy, and I want to play a good guy. I don't mind playing a bad guy in the future. We can try that too, but being a good guy would be good. It was just a good experience. I thought that everyone's very professional that you bring on board. I was just really blown away by just the professionalism, but just the standard of of the talent and stuff, all the stunt players, the actors.
So
yeah,
there is an incredible stunt team. Alex Suarez, Shannon Fitzpatrick, Brian McGowan, Courtney Morell. You see people that win an award and they get out there and they just start naming all these names of people that you may or may not know, probably you don't know. But the reason that they do that is because it's just not possible without those people. Those people are so important and so loved and so needed. There's a whole bunch of people back there that are making this happen. So we really love to give that recognition, because that's the reward, to be able to show the results. It's one thing to say, hey, I've got a great script, but it's another thing to bring it to life in an efficient amount of time at a level of quality, and then do that again and again and again as a career.
Yeah. The level of quality, the production value on that thing, I was like, wow, okay. And, so it's kind of a good package deal there, so I felt like there was a good experience. I loved how it turned out, and meeting more than my expectations, to be honest. And I'm sitting there going, man, I don't want to bring this thing down. I gotta, I gotta get myself into. I know. Okay, I'll breeze in there and I'll have fun and I'll do a good job.
And it let me know that you were actually really interested in being on camera, because a lot of times, like some of my guys here, Michael and Kevin, you guys have both been in things that we've shot, played characters. Michael, he's been in, in Max Brown. Shout out to Max Brown, by the way. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Max.
Yeah. Cool. So Max has been in the mentorship program and done several movies and been in the movies, but we keep putting masks on him, like character masks. Yeah. So I don't think we've ever seen his actual face. So we're going to keep using him. So we need more masks.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people out there making a lot of good money, good living on those masks. Not ever being seen. So it's definitely all out there, But no, I enjoyed working on that project with you guys, and happy how it really turned out.
And what was that character? Tell me, how were we describing that time traveling character that you played?
How it was described was this dude has been through every battle. He's all this different history, seen it all, done it all. Pretty beat up, but he's there to help when people need to be helped, and he will. It
sounds like us right now as filmmakers. We're just here to help out.
That's true. It's true. I mean, that's what it is, The guy could, just walk away from it all, but no, he will just keep going.
It's really cool. He just kind of blows in through a portal, helps some people out, and then he's like, hey, I got to get out of here. Yep. What was the line? Max wrote a line that was really clever.
Too much time in the past is bad for business. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, it took me a minute to think about that.
It's a real life truth too, by the way.
It is. And I think that his business is helping people out, and he wanted to get around there and just make sure he's doing his job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so FUTURA episode 4, The Arena, you can check it out on YouTube. It's really, really cool. Now remember, all of these projects are shot by new filmmakers. So everything that you're seeing, this is where they're starting, and it's pretty awesome. Okay, we don't make these films with the intention of them being perfect. In my opinion, perfection is boring and predictable, and we're not looking for that. Some of my best work has been done from just mistakes or just screwing up or just finding it in the moment. So it's not about being perfect. It's about telling a great quality story at a level of quality in an efficient amount of time and repeating that process. It's basically about that. Okay, let's get right into Wolf Valley.
Okay,
so
let's do it.
We finished The Arena, our sci-fi project, and it's funny because we shot 4 sci-fi episodes of FUTURA, and they're great. I'm a massive sci-fi fan, but as you have probably seen in interviews, filmmakers will be like, I need a break from the sci-fi. Got to do something else. Got to just change it up, know?
Sure.
So we thought about that. We went back to the drawing board and we looked at our, movie slate. Like a real studio, we have a movie slate where there's a board of ideas and projects we want to make. Maybe we'll make all of them. Maybe we'll make some of them. This is, how we've been getting these movies made. Every 8 weeks, you guys, we're making a film. Every 8 weeks. All right, there's a new class. Every project's different, and every project's unique. Plus, we have events that we do, all kinds of goodness. Anyway, more on that later. So Wolf Valley comes along, and I'm trying to remember. I think when we were originally talking about it, we were rummaging through the shop again, like the American Pickers, and you had a werewolf head.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And it was more of a static head. It wasn't as scary, and we talked about it. I said, well, look, I can take this and a little modification. I can make it have a little bit of movement, jaw movement, etc. And we could really make this thing scary. I think you threw out Prophecy Bear, which I was like, that is great reference for me, because that's
so there's a movie.
Yeah,
there is this movie. Okay, it's called Prophecy, and it was about this distorted, disfigured bear that terrorizes people, and I think it was in the 70s or something like that. But it was
late 70s, 79 or something like that. Somewhere, later 70s.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. It kind of reminded me of that. It was a terrifying movie as a kid.
Yeah, I do remember that, and so that's a good reference. So I'm like, because I was talking to you about, well, let's make this thing nasty, because now I'm gonna have to cut the whole thing up. I had to cut this guy up and do a bunch of stuff to get the jaw to move and just make it do what it wasn't going to do. Yeah. And so...
And we found just the fiber... Is it fiberglass, or what is it made of?
Oh, the inner structure, the skull, shell, if you will, the shell is a fiberglass. And it was...
That's what we found. Yeah. So what you see here, like all the hair and all the stuff that's none of that was on there. So all of that was added. And the whole idea when we were doing this was, me saying to Christian, like, hey, man, I don't want you to have to do a whole lot of work. Like, let's find something that we can work with efficiently. And, I don't want you to spend days and weeks, building a full suit, even though you want to. And even though we're inching towards that.
We're inching towards that, and it goes back to like the, hey, if it was 2.5 years ago, we were rolling. By the way, I have 3 companies. I do have Quantum Creation Effects, but I have Lucid Studios as well. My wife and I own that together, and that is a union company, so we can do union jobs and stuff like that. But we also have Trash Panda Entertainment, which is our entertainment company. Okay. So we do indie films and things like that under that. But I wanted to throw that out there because it's is more to it than just quantum, but there's also, in the last 2.5 years, yes, our industry has been struggling here in Hollywood. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's affected all of us. It's affected my companies for sure. And prior to that, we can roll in things and build these things, be more elaborate on this kind of stuff, because I don't mind. I have the resources and we can do it. But now with things slowed up, I've got to be
more diverse, right?
More diverse, try to pay that rent. But you've got to be more economical, and I can't just go build a whole werewolf suit and roll it in and have fun and, hey guys, let's go. I have to pick and choose and my challenges, and I have to work with that. And we figured out an economical way to make a cool werewolf. And I think we talked about it. It's more about, it's not always, what you show, but what you don't show. It's always about, silhouettes can be scary as all get out if you're lit right, and you've got a guy like David and our team, and
it's like the Jurassic Park kind of theory where they use CGI, but they also use practical dinosaurs and that sort of hybrid combination. We've used AI before. FUTURA episode 4, the arena. Those backgrounds were AI backgrounds.
Awesome. Yes.
We've talked in some of the other interviews about AI. AI is great. It's awesome. It's still in its infancy. It's still got inherent problems. It's still very Las Vegas because you don't know what you're going to get. Yeah. Oftentimes it's like, well, I didn't ask for that, but I like it. There's this whole points or coin-based system where we're paying every time produce these images. I believe that Hollywood is not only ready for more practical effects, but this generation just doesn't know about them. This is our way of bringing a resurgence into this revolution. Hollywood has always got drama going on. When is there not some chaos or drama or, oh my gosh, going on in Hollywood? Always. This is another version of that. And you might be saying to yourself, yes, Baran, but it's never been like it is now. Great. Well, yeah, they said that a couple years ago too, and a couple years before that. It becomes a normal progression of evolution in business. I find that, like many of the things that we do here, the artistry that we do here in movies, it's very time consuming. Yeah. And it's not always giving you what you want, and you have to cultivate that.
The summer before last, I was doing a panel at Monsterpalooza and answering a lot of questions for people the best that I could. And I was asked about AI, because I think at that point, it's like almost 2 years ago, and it was, I don't know, it just started becoming a boiling factor with this AI and the strikes and all that stuff. And I really just wanted to steer clear of those questions, but someone asked me that, and I was kind of like, I don't know. Don't know enough about it to really comment on it. I know that there's so many variables and facets and usages and whatever, I kind of, I look at it, it's just another tool.
Yeah.
But yes, it should be, it should be monitored or controlled to a certain extent or whatever, because, you don't want to give up too much of the human artist creativity on things, and across the board, from writing to visuals to everything. But I feel like, it made me think back when I started in this industry, in the practical world of makeup effects and everything. It was late 90s. And I just remember breaking in, and I'm so stoked, and I'm like, this is my dream. This is what I want to do. But everyone I worked with, they've been around for a while, and they were just telling me, why do you want to get in this industry? Why do you want to do this? Because we're dying. 5 years, we won't have makeup effects. We won't have anything.
Oh, I remember that.
It was everywhere. I mean, everyone's saying that, and I'm like, gee, this sucks. I'm like, it's kind of bringing me down a little bit, but it didn't happen. I mean,
it never happens. And that's the thing.
CGI will take
Toy Story came out.
Yeah.
And Toy Story, everybody thought, oh, they're not going to hire actors anymore. That's it. We're done. So again, Hollywood, in my experience, is always promoting a doom and gloom mindset.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
So if you buy into that and you subscribe to that, then that might be what you'll find. But if you don't, and you follow some cool guys like us, you'll see another perspective. And speaking of, I want to get back to Winston Wolfe over there. Mr. Wolfe, no, he doesn't talk. Okay.
He could.
I wanted to actually ask, so tell us about your character in Wolf Valley.
Oh, okay. Another fun one, and I had a lot of fun with. And this guy, again, he's been around the block. I look at him like he is a mature guy who's kind of a jack of all trades and a master at pretty much all of them. Like he's that guy who's a pretty genius artist. He's that guy that can create and make anything. And we kind of show some of that in the film. But he's got this creative power, and he's also a guy that can tear down and build a 73 satellite, if he has to. But then his instincts for werewolf hunting is, he's got that too. Like he's got he can be the nicest guy, but he can be the most deadliest. And I feel like my character, he has a switch. He's a nice guy. He's working hard. He's trying to be creative and look out for people. He gets a little frustrated with people. He does probably like to be by himself more than anything.
This is starting to remind me of somebody that I know.
But at the end of the day, when it comes to the werewolf aspect of it, and when he is up for that challenge, it's a switch. It's like he switches into a mode of, don't mess with this guy, because he's got a whole other zone that he's in on that stuff, and it's all about, because he has to, because it's when you look at a werewolf, you look at the anatomy of a werewolf, and you look at the senses, and they're just they're deadly, you
Yeah.
know, and I mean, they're superhuman deadly. So he's got to be superhuman. And that's the switch goes on. I always think of it, and it's quite another Stallone thing, but over the top, you know, when Stallone's getting ready to do the arm wrestling, he turns his hat around and that's a switch. And that's like, I feel like when you're Max, you know, and you got some werewolf business to do, you got to turn that switch on and become superhuman. So
It's
that's
so
kind of
fun.
like the way I roll those ideas around my head. But
It's so fun. I mean, I remember coming in to pitch you the idea after we did Futura, and you know, we had found our footing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, now it was our second project, and we were like, oh, okay, and you know, we're almost like warmed up or something, and you know, I came in and I said, so I have this character for you. The name of the character is Max Luthor, Werewolf Hunter, and it was one of those names that just like, you know. It landed on the page. It was inspired by Max Brown, who's, you know, one of my guys here that's been at Creative HQ forever, and he's my right hand. He's the AD on all of our shots. So I thought of Max, but I thought, well, what's a unique last name? Luthor is what fell into place. Werewolf Hunter.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. That's how Max Luthor was born.
And it works. You know, and that was great. And I'm just trying to run with it.
And by the way, Max Luthor, he works in the back of a comic book and collectibles shop. So that's what's kind of funny about it is like there's all these comic book and collectible creatures, but in the back of the shop, they refer to that as the vault.
Right.
And that's where Max works. So we find out in the story that even though they're at the comic book and collectors shop, that all these creatures and whatnot that are in the shop are actually real.
Yeah.
And Max actually the rumor has it that Max actually killed a real werewolf. You know, that whole legend.
Yeah.
So pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, I dig it. It's been a fun experience with this one for sure. I mean, it's got a lot to it. And you know, I'm really looking forward to when you can get this out, because I think people are going to go, whoa, that's
It's coming
cool.
out May 8th. So by the time this airs, May 8th will have gone, and you can go to YouTube right now, look up Wolf Valley under Creative HQ, and you can see the movie. Remember, it was shot by new filmmakers. Everybody that's involved in the project was in the film mentorship program. We shot it in 2.5 days, I think is what we did.
Yeah.
Wolf Valley is about 3 girls that are on their way to a concert, and they take a shortcut and go through this dark road and accidentally hit a werewolf. It's pretty awesome. It's a lot of fun. That other werewolf prop that you saw in there was a completely different prop, which was another discovery as we were going through the museum at Quantum Creation Effects. Yeah. Christian tells me this story about this werewolf, this 6-foot werewolf that's laying down.
Right. I mean, we've had this werewolf in my studio for about 10 years now. And this was a film that we worked on where my good friend Konstantin Sakaris, who is a brilliant designer, illustrator, great master at the creature stuff, he was on this project, and he said, Christian, they need a werewolf, and the whole scene was a scene where the werewolf is laying there. It's the main character of the film in a werewolf form now, and he's dying, and his girlfriend's holding his head and just kind of propping the head up, and he's passing, and she's crying, and it's this scene. We didn't do any animatronics to it, but what we did was we had the head with a nice spine so that she can lift it, and it looks really natural and real. We also had a breathing apparatus so that he's dying, he's taking his dying breaths, and we built this thing like in 4 to 5 weeks. Where it was head to toe sculpted by 4 different sculptors. Mold makers, 3 or 4 of those, making the molds of everything. We cast it all in silicone. We hand punched hair. I mean, the details they're awesome. We had a lot of fun with it. And we went to film it. We filmed that day that we had it backlit, and we had the face all glistening. It looked awesome. Unfortunately, through stories and everything, changes and stuff like that, that scene did not make it in the film. So it became this, really cool prop that didn't make it. I retained the prop, so I've had it ever since then. And I'm like, well, you know what? We need to use this on something. And I had some ideas, and I think I shot them your way. I had some fun ideas about werewolf hunters, but.
And that spawned the whole idea for Wolf Valley. Like when you showed me that prop, I was like, I said to Max, I was like, oh yeah, we could use that.
Oh, it's something to build around it. I mean,
we built the whole thing around that one prop. That's what it all came from.
That one prop is very expensive to build, and if and for some indie films, that might even be a budget, for their film for something like that. But we have it. And it was like, I want to make use of it. And I thought we certainly did on this. I mean, I felt like it was shot so well. You guys did a magnificent job shooting it. And I'm excited.
It photographs amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is.
And isn't it interesting how, when you have this sort of museum collection of all these different pieces, that there's always going to be a handful of pieces that's like, hey, this didn't get used, or hey, we've never used this, or this is partially finished, Right. And again, it was just like repurposing things. Like, we're not working harder, we're working smarter. Mm-hmm. Usually these indie productions are coming in like, hey, can you build this whole big thing? And they've got this tall order and this much money and this much time. Yep. My approach is quite the opposite. My approach is, hey, don't do a lot of work, And it's like, first of all, that's odd. Like, talking to me, like, don't do a lot of work. Instead, let's build a strategy that is more efficient. And we repurposed a lot of things. So that was very cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely production value for Wolf Valley for sure. And I'm open to doing these things when we can.
Well, there's rumor of a sequel. Oh, am I supposed to say that? Anyways,
I heard that rumor.
I read it.
I don't know if it's true.
Hollywood Reporter or something. They're talking about it already again.
Variety. Yeah.
So we did another project called The Hollow Room, which was this thriller. And again, you were acting. Mm-hmm. So came up with this character, Mason Barnes, who's a lawyer. And he was just, I don't know. What was the character like?
Okay, so again, this is great. This is fun for me. Okay, because we get together and it is filmmaking from top to bottom, and I can throw in some of my props and my things and contribute that way. But it's nice when you guys let me try out a character.
And this was more about acting. Like we had one or two little props that we used, which were awesome. But this was really about the character. Very
much about that. And I'm kind of shocked you let me jump in on that one, because it was more of a character for me. And I am not by any means an actor, a trained actor, or anything like that. So I've been in SAG for 25 years now, but everything I do is more.
You've got a werewolf head on.
Puppeteering, you're puppeteering something, or suit performing or something like that. It's more of a suit type, character type thing, but not acting. So what I get a kick out of, and what's fun for me and challenging, is trying to get on the other side of the camera like that and just try to see what I can do and see if I can figure some of this stuff out. Because it's funny. It's one thing you watch a character and it's easy for you to critique them or whatever, but then when you're on the other side of it and you're trying to do something, it's harder, And so it's great. It gives me an opportunity to try some of these things, and it's more fun for me to try to do this and try to develop, a skill set if I can. That character was fun because, I do like the South, and I like some of the the good old boys Southern, like I don't know, country bumpkins, if you will, or whatever. Because I do have a lot of experience in that with people I know, and
absolutely,
I actually appreciate that and adore some of that. So for this, I was like, okay, I can let's try to do a little Southern accent. Let me try to bring
the hat.
I just bought a few.
The bolero.
Props. Yeah,
you had a glow in the dark scorpion bolero.
Yes, I thought it was
nice touch.
It was fun. So I just felt like let's try to bring something to it and do the best I can. So it was fun. And again, it's challenging for me. But what was more challenging, it's not like I'm a standalone guy and I just have my lines. I'm kind of interacting with two people that are.
We had Alex and Shannon there,
and they're talented and they're good, and they're together, and they're on off camera, so they're kind of rehearsing and working together with it. So I kind of jump in and it's like, oh shit, I can't keep up with these guys, man. They know what they're good, And so what's fun was I think Alex started, they don't mean to offend me or anything. That's what's funny. No one wants to offend me or anything like that. And I think it's funny, but I'm like, hey, don't, if it's a situation where I need to know, just tell me, and so it got to a point where we're performing, we're doing stuff, and they started getting my character got on their nerves. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting there like I'm just rattling on and this and that. And finally Alex is turning to me and he's all, "Oh man, is that how we're going to do it? Is that that's the truth or something like that?" Like he tried to like sarcastically mimic
your southern accent or something.
My performance. And then they're getting this tense moment where they're when she's up against a tree and he's about ready to kill her basically, and I'm trying to jump and say, hey guys, come on now, we gotta stick together or whatever, and I'm droning on too much and they're both pissed off. They're like, shut up, so it kind of lent it to me a little bit more realistic, because it's like I can throw that in there, and it's like it was I don't know, it was too realistic actually.
It was an intense scene.
It
was a really intense scene, and that's the thing is like we create a safe space to that's a playground.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you can feel a little more vulnerable to go into a space with other professionals. I mean, Alex and Shannon, who are amazing, they're stunt people by trade, but Alex is a phenomenal director, phenomenal fight choreographer, just multi-talented. And many of the people that we work with, just like we talk about, they're diversified in a way where, Alex may specialize in stunt choreography, fight choreography, this sort of thing. He's a stunt man himself, but he's also a really talented director. Really, really talented. So, acting across from Alex and Shannon and Brunson and all these people, I mean, they really elevate the whole thing.
They do. So, and I think before I jumped in there, you were kind of, I was telling, man, I don't know, man, I got a lot of dialogue. I got to play off them, or they playing off me. It's like, okay, I'm not quite used to that, so I gotta let's see how this goes. And it was a little tough at first, and then I think got a little more into it, a little more working together,
after you rehearse,
a little more synergy and a little more, and
it kind of clicks. Fun. You fall into the character.
Yeah, and again, we're doing these things very fast, and so we just got to kind of adapt to that time frame and just try to figure it out. So it was a lot of fun for me. I know it's not huge on the visuals, but it is more of a drama and more, relying on the characters and stuff. So. It was fun. I like it.
You did a great job, man.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
If you're into thrillers, and this is kind of like a Twilight Zone sort of a vibe. If you go to Creative HQ YouTube, you can see the YouTube channel with all the movies on there, like FUTURA Episode 4, The Arena, The Hollow Room, Wolf Valley. We had a couple of really unique props in the Hollow Room. We had a bear trap that was made of foam but looked like metal. We had another creature, I think that was from yet another movie.
Yes, we did. It was fun. I know we were looking for something that could be, it's a demon-like thing. It's very scary. I had a silicone hand puppet creature from Boogeyman 2, actually, from many, many years ago. I've just kept this thing forever because I still like it. It's something that we did early on with my company and designed in-house, and and as a matter of fact, if I can remember the story right, this thing, I'd go to early meetings and there still wasn't like a creature in this show, and that's what I didn't like about the first one. It kind of bummed me out. There wasn't really practical or real creature, and I was in meetings and I was vocal. I'm like, man, can't we just build a creature, something we can do? And they were like, it got batted around a little bit, and then then next thing you know, we've got a kind of a dream nightmare sequence or whatever when the guy's in the closet and this creature is face to face with him, and that's our puppet, and it was a lot of fun. So I still have this thing. It's in decent enough shape, and if we change it around, and it had some crazy garb to it and a helmet and things like that. So we used that, and it was a lot of fun because it gave a lot of good, again, a production value for something like that. And the bear trap was great because you want to use something that not going to hurt anyone. It's going to be soft. And I think you and Max came up with that. You guys,
Yeah.
you fabricated this out of foam core and foam, and then I just took it and had our painter just kind of polish it up, give it a nice little paint job, and it read well on camera.
On camera, it looked like real metal. It looked heavy. It looked sharp, but it was just soft foam.
And it's safe.
And it's safe. Yeah. It's a giant bear trap too.
And it is giant.
It was a pretty brutal looking bear trap.
It was. I thought so.
I mean, it was funny because, one of the film students, Max Brown, he flew in, and the night he flew in, he literally comes in from, all day traveling, and I'm like, we got to make this bear trap.
Yeah. Sorry, man. But then, it's kind of, as tired as you are, and, you don't want to do much, but when it comes to building a cool prop, then you're like, okay, I'll muster up a little bit of
right.
a little bit of energy, and we can do something cool.
Exactly.
But again, collaboration, and I think it turned out great.
It turned out awesome.
Yeah.
I want to take a minute and I want to point out where we're shooting at. This podcast studio is F22 Studios right here in Burbank. It's centrally located. Parking is easy. Heck, there's even air conditioning, coffee, and a video game out there. So it's pretty much everything a filmmaker could ask for. The staff is awesome and professional. Been coming here for years. There's a full rental house right on the other side of this wall. There's a giant stage. There's all kinds of support here. So if you're looking to do a podcast, we've got 3 Sony FS7s here. We've got everything lit. It's turnkey. Just step in, do the podcast, just like we're doing right here today. It's all happening right here at F22studiosla.com. All right, well, that's it for Life Camera Action. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ron McPherson. This is Christian Beckman, and you can check out his website. It's called quantumcreationeffects.com. If you need a creature, a monster, a superhero, or something like that, that's exactly where you want to go. I'm over at creativehq.com if you want to learn about filmmaking and you want to come down to the set and have some fun with us and work with Winston Wolfe and creatures like that. Come on down, creativehq.com. We'll see you on the set.